Yeah.
And then this movie pops its little head.
Yeah, it just says, here you go. Yeah, but it's like, I hate to keep going back to like the top tier of movies, and again, Tarantino, but you think of Pulp Fiction in 94, every time I see that movie or watch that movie, I think that's like early 2000s. Like, it's so just dynamic and how it's shot and everything and the way it looks, but again, like, it's a top tier production, made movie.
I also think you get to like tone setting pieces, and when you look at that tone setting piece, it far exceeds the time it was made. Like Reservoir Dogs still holds up,
sure,
I think. Yeah. And so you could watch that, and if you watch it in '98, you could probably go, "Oh, this is a '96 release." Yeah. I feel the same way about Pulp Fiction as well. There's so many, just like, no one's overly done with their costumes. All their costumes very simple. Other than like if you looked at maybe the McDonald's or like the cars, like it's really just of its time.
But even going back to something that we know, like, Under Siege, in that same sense, that seems like it's like, a late 90s movie.
It does, and I think that's also because you never have to see anyone in any other fashion other than military.
Right. You're stapled to that one location.
Other than her thong, we're not really privy to any type of like style outside of that. So I think that helps it. I think that helped Pulp Fiction. I think it hurts this movie in that the style seems to be all over the place.
Yeah, it has to. You're in college, so you're going to have to get as much of that as you can. And you get people wearing everything and looking like everything from McLeod to Williams to Kimberly. The Levitt, who wears everything from overalls to like business suits.
80s power suits. Yeah, it's a very strange thing. We'll talk about it in a second. Right now, major things happen in December for a lot of people.
Right. But what was biggest when we were kids?
Exactly. Christmas.
For
me and Marcus, it was Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I don't think it's the greatest holiday. It's just what we celebrated.
Right.
So imagine whatever you give gifts for in Christmas, because we want to set what the top Christmas gifts were in 1991. It's 1991. My God. Your tree's set up. You know that smell of a tree in your house?
Oh, yeah. Fake tree? Yeah.
Fake trees, too.
Yeah.
It's a different smell, but there's still a smell.
Do you know my dad would put a water thing underneath a fake tree to make us think that it was real when we were a kid? Good for him. That's a great plan. Yeah, kids. I went out and got this real tree.
Cut this one down real good. I would often be woken up at night to jingling, thinking Santa had come early, but it was just the cats playing with the decorations on the tree. So I'd run out, and it would just be my cat, Slutface. That was her name. Playing with the trees. So you got that smell permeating your house. You got people, maybe more relatives are coming more frequently as you gear up towards the holidays.
Sure.
You're being dragged to parties.
Right.
As the child of this. I didn't go to many, but I know that was a part of a lot of people's lives. Like, we're going to the Moore's Christmas party.
Yeah.
And we would go and we would play with the kids while they would drink and drive home drunk, probably.
Yeah.
This is not my family, once again. I'm just imagining it had to have happened, right? Like,
oh, yeah, definitely.
Your parent taking your kid, like, yeah, I'm getting drunk. I just live down the street.
Yeah, it's quick drive.
Yeah. You got the kids, we'll put them in the back seat.
As long as they're facing away, like when they're facing towards the back of the
kids,
car.
Blair Witch in the back of the car. Yeah. So, Mark, do you remember any of your Christmas lists?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember big ones from the 90s?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I remember Sega being a big one. I remember the... sorry if I mispronounced this, but I'm going off of what I think it was called, the Technodrome. Was that what it was?
You're right.
Yeah, the Technodrome.
Turtles hang out. Yeah,
wanted that big. I wanted the van too and everything. The turtle van.
Great stuff.
There was Mask. I was always a fan of Mask. But that was a little later. There was a new one, Wing Command. Not Wing Command. You know which the Zipline guys.
Yes.
You know which ones I'm talking about?
Exo Squad.
Was that what it was? Exo Squad.
Centurions? No. Sky Commanders.
Sky Commanders. There you go.
It was late 80s, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Still, I think with our income, with my parents, we were probably getting those in the early 90s.
Because they're about $4
now. Right.
But what a great idea for a toy. Talk about Sky Commanders. Just set up, tie it to something, and let these motherfuckers just slide down.
You had your backyard was a war zone. You had everything you needed back there. As long as you had trees and sticks, you were good to go.
A friend of mine lived in front of a creek. We eventually did too, and there was like just a sort of puddling through creek. But if you brought your G.I. Joes down to a creek bed,
right?
Oh,
yeah.
You had muddy banks with roots and stuff where they could have snipers. Yeah. You had pebbled beaches, deep waters for G.I. Joes, so you could drown your G.I. Joes if that's the the story you're telling.
That's what you're into. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, turtles sometimes, tadpoles. I remember having a big tadpole pond in the creek where it's like, the water would rise and it would fall, and then there'd be this pond, and in the pond would all be these tadpoles that left.
Yeah.
I remember like treating that like a shark pit. My Cobra troops would throw G.I. Joe captures in there and let them get eaten alive by tadpoles. But yeah, the 80s and 90s toy commercials of these kids playing just got me so riled up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see that again. With TV, with the commercials, like we saw. I mean, you can go back on YouTube and just watch an hour of those. I could sit there and watch an hour of those things. And
it's great because it's just these kids in the dirt and with their figures being like, not today, Cobra Commander. G.I. Joe, get your G.I. Joes today at Toys R Us everywhere, whatever it is. And so, Sky Commanders were big.
I think also at that time, if we're talking about this time, 91, 92-ish, I'm turning, 12, 13. So toys are kind of going by the wayside. Mm-hmm. But I think around then was like when CDs started becoming, and I wanted a boombox CD player. And I did get it. And my first two CDs that my grandparents got me with my boombox were Garth Brooks, No Fences.
There were none.
None. And Boyz II Men, Motown Philly. And those are the first two CDs that I ever got. The long boxes when CDs first came out.
Oh, yes.
What about you? What were some things that you had on your list?
Well, this was around one of the big Christmases for me. And this was, if you have a child listening right now, one, you shouldn't. But two, cover their ears, because this was around the time I found out Santa wasn't real. I may have talked about this in the late, maybe 89, maybe 90, I wanted a Power Glove more than anything. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted everything else in the Sears catalog. So I made this long-ass list for my mom to get me. Everything on the list, and I didn't get it. Of course, I thought Santa was just going to give me everything. So
you got nothing from the list, unfortunately?
I got a Power Glove.
Okay.
Understandably.
Right, right. You're talking about $100, $99, something like that right then?
Yeah, so, and I'm sure I probably got like a video game too, but just like the big thing was the Power Glove and pajamas and socks and shit like that. And so I was like, oh, I love the Power Glove, great, but like kind of like, where's my...
What else you got for me,
Yeah,
Mom?
where's my Turtle Van? Where's my G.I. Joe Fortress? Where's my... I asked for Generation 1 Transformers, which aren't made anymore. So where are those?
Where are those at?
Why couldn't you just make me those? You have your whole workshop. Make me a hot rod. Make me Rodimus Prime G1.
There you go.
Or G2, technically. But still. So I remember, must have been the next couple of days, I was just sitting on the couch and was like, Mom, is Santa real? And I think that must have been shitty for her because, of course she knows, she's like, I'm sure I don't remember the conversation, but I remember asking, and I'm sure she was like, why do you say that? And it's like, well, I asked for a lot of stuff and only got this. So as a parent, you're like, well, fuck me.
Yeah. This little asshole of a kid.
I know. Oh, what a terrible kid. But she was very kind about it. It was like, she broke it down for me. So while it wasn't 91, 90 or 89 was a big Christmas for me. But around this time, I wanted to talk about some things that you would have been seeing in the Sears, that beautiful, thick Sears catalog.
Man, the Bible.
It was enormous. You would have probably got that around September.
Yeah.
October, you'd get that. And there was always a really fun cover. And then you flip through 106 pages of women in sweatpants to get to the toys, the electronics, the underwear.
Yeah.
And I said underwear. Underwear. And once you got those pages sticking together, you'd move on to the toys. No, I'm kidding. I wasn't doing that at that point, I don't think. I was 8, so no.
Okay.
I don't think so. I thought I was whapping it to frilly waist-high underwear.
Oh, I was.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, that was later, when Victoria's Secret catalogs would just randomly come to our house,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But, Sears catalog, going back, pivoting from that,
no.
is... Yeah, you open up that catalog, you bust out a good pen, you sit down at your little desk.
You were about to say. You whip out that Sears catalog, you bust a nut.
You bust a nut, and then you just keep going and start circling toys. Now your mind's clear. It's like the big
now I can focus. Now I can really make my list.
You have your pre-nut list and your post-nut list. You just separate them for your parents.
Picture like 12-year-old Marcus is like this in a suit. Be like, gotta clear my head. Does a line of coke.
Just the Matthew McConaughey of Wolf of Wall Street.
So you would, after you would quote unquote bust out your pen, you'd make your list. You'd just go down. You'd write the numbers,
right.
all the information, because you'd look at this massive pages of hundreds of toys like on each page and be like K9 and you find out what number that was. That's what I would do too, and I'm sure I did this around 91 still, just so my mom knew. I don't know if I got it for 91, but this was a big year. Game Gear was released in 91, as well as the Super Soaker 50. I remember getting the Super Soaker 200. I don't know if I ever got the Super Soaker 50.
I know I got one of those, but I can't remember which one it was. I got the long barrel, whichever that one was. I forget, but because there was a lot of decoys going around. Like you go to the dollar store and get you a knockoff Super Soaker for $5 or something like that. But you wanted that nice neon green, yellow, everything in there.
What a strange, I guess as I think about it, what a strange boom time for water guns.
It was. I mean,
and all because of Super Soaker.
Right. Yeah.
Now, is it Super Soaker where they tried to fuck the inventor of it out, like this?
Never heard this.
Yeah,
I'm interested.
I think it's worth a brief segue just to go over while that's loading, because I have dial-up, I guess. But in '92, that was a big year for WWF action figures, because that was when the Hasbro figures came out, which really blew up. The Hasbro WWF figures, if you're a collector of any kind within that, you know what they are. But they were these little brightly colored wrestling figures that do like actions.
Yeah.
So like they'd be internal machines like rubber bands and stuff connected to where you'd pull their hands back and you could body slam people and things like that. Huge, great commercials. So that was coming out.
Are those of value right now, or is that kind of the time when we heard in the other podcast? And my apologies. Which podcast is that you like a lot?
The Major Wrestler Figure podcast.
Yeah, is that around when people started keeping them sealed, or are they still hard to find?
No, you can find them sealed. Because there were warehouses of them. People, there was always these warehouses finds where these rare toys become a bit devalued. Because and that hasn't happened with this, because wrestling collecting right now is kind of in a boom, especially the figures. But no one was keeping them sealed. They weren't collecting. I mean, I remember buying them, just ripping them open in the car. Like, they never made it home.
Yeah.
You toss the cards. You do all this stuff. And then you would just slam them against each other.
Yeah. That's what they were meant for.
It really was. Yeah. So, Super Soaker inventor, Lonnie Johnson, aerospace engineer and entrepreneur whose work includes U.S. Air Force term of service and a 12-year stint at NASA where he worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He invented the Super Soaker water gun, which has been among the world's best-selling toys ever since. He also invented the Nerf gun. He patented the pneumatic launcher for a toy projectile.
Jesus.
How about that? Johnson first conceived the Super Soaker while doing work for the U.S. Air Force, initially called the Power Drencher, when it first appeared in toy shops in 1990. Eventually, it got its trademark name after some tweaks and remarketing, selling between $10 and $60, depending on the model. You spent $60 out of water.
To shoot water. You got a hose.
The Super Soaker took off, generating $200 million in sales in 1991.
Jesus.
Wow. Shortly after making the deal for the Super Soaker with Laramie Corporation, Laramie became a subsidiary of Hasbro in February of 1995. Johnson tweaked the design of the water gun, replacing the water in the Super Soaker with a toy Nerf projectile in 1996. In 1996, Johnson received a U.S. patent for pneumatic launcher of the toy projectile and the like, thus inventing the Nerf gun. In February of 2013, Johnson filed suit against Hasbro after he discovered that he was being underpaid royalties for the Super Soaker and several Nerf line toys. Think about this. They were selling them and giving him less than the agreed upon.
So just skimming it, just pocketing some of the... Lonnie will never find out.
You, Hasbro.
Yeah.
And in November 2003, Johnson was awarded nearly $73 million in royalties from Hasbro. That was which he got in arbitration. according to Hasbro, the Super Soaker is approaching, to this day, it's about to hit the $1 billion mark.
So are they still putting out new lines of
I don't know if
Super
they're
Soakers?
new lines, but I imagine you could find Super Soakers.
I wonder what one. We should have done a little research. I would like to see what a box one sealed goes for now from 1991.